Coast rays always bright. Mr. Raleigh rolling through, lighting up the night. Palm trees swaying as we cruise mid-July. Ocean breeze kiss my face, ain't no need to lie. City of angels, concrete jungle dreams. Golden hour glows brighter than it seems. Mr. Raleigh on the west side playing scenes. Spinning stories on the mic, got 'em chasing themes. West Coast, the best coast, you heard it true. Riding low through the streets, always something new. Westside vibe, Mr. Raleigh and the crew. Feeling high, touching skies, always breaking through. Rims spinning low, riders leaning to the curve. Mr. Raleigh got the words, got 'em feeling served. Sunset Boulevard where dreams preserve. Late night vibes, grinding, never swerve. Coastlines and skylines, endless in sight. Mr. Raleigh lighting up, keeping it tight. West Coast rhythm under the moonlight. Feeling infinite, always at the height. West Coast, the best coast, you heard it true. Riding low through the streets, always something new. Westside vibe, Mr. Raleigh and the crew. Feeling high, touching skies, always breaking through.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mr. Riley coming to you live from the West Coast, the best coast, the West Side. Happy Monday. Happy Monday to you, man. We got another wonderful, wonderful episode. So thank you for being here on, I guess that you could call this the first season, the first episode of the Westside Show podcast. And so your boy's at it again, always doing something on this medium, on this using the technology. So welcome. Thank you for being here tonight. So we have a wonderful show, and we have a wonderful guest, brother from another mother, young man I grew up with, man, just back in the day, just, attending some of the youth conferences, just having some of the same friends and all that kind of good stuff. So I invited him on here because he has a compelling story. He has a story that we would like to get out to everyone. And so we're going to bring my good friend, Mr. Dameon K. Wroe. What's going on, sir?
How you doing? How you doing, James? Good to be here, man. Thank you for having me.
Hey, man, thanks for being here too, man. It's really awesome to have you a part of this this podcast and being a part of the Riley World experience. So
yes, sir.
And the Westside Show experience, man. So I know you were kind of vibing out to some of the tunes, the music that we had, man.
Yes.
What did you think about that, man? I know you're over there trying to get yours in. You kind of feel it a little bit, man. What you think about the West Side Show tune, man?
Yeah, I like it, man. Like, I like it so much. Like, if you change it, we probably gonna fight behind the scenes, bro. Like, so let's not turn up.
Hey, listen. I call it the West Coast vibes out there. So, man, I really appreciate you being here tonight. So let's go ahead and hop on in it, man. I mean, we got so much stuff. I'm looking over here at your bio, man. Your bio. I mean, I think you said you cut page 2.
Page 2 had to go, bro. It was too much. So
let's look at a couple of things real quick, and then we'll go ahead and talk about your background. We'll talk about your business ventures. You're a dad, small business owner. You're an author.
Yes.
You're creative. You're a musician. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that we can get into. But let me go ahead and just mention a couple of things. So Dameon was born and raised in California by both of his biological parents. Let's see. He moved. Dameon's mother moved, he and his sister, to Southern California in the early 80s to pursue a better quality of life. Let's see. Dameon grew up as a rather rebellious teenager, primarily angered by his father's absence in your life. So let's talk about that, because there's a lot of what they call the new buzzword, microaggressions. And so back then, we didn't know what a microaggression was, man. Just kind of, talk us through a little bit about, if you don't mind, just some of the anger that was, that you kind of grew up with and just really becoming a part of your life to the point where you were just an angry young man.
Yeah, so yes, you're right. So fast forwarding to the 21st century.
Yeah.
It's important that all of my viewers, all of my readers especially, understand the dynamic of my energy, because when I speak sometimes, I have a tendency to come off as angry. But I really want people to pay attention to the fact that there's a huge difference between anger and passion.
Yeah.
So when I'm talking about a subject matter that's very near and dear to me, or I'm very passionate about, I'm one of those types of people, James, where I stand corrected on a lot of things. But when I stand on business because I know what I know, there's nothing you can tell me to sway my judgment.
Right.
I don't know everything, but I know what I know. And so I stand on that when I speak. I'm very matter of fact about things that I have a passion for. So I always want to let my audience know, don't confuse anger
with passion.
They're two different things.
Absolutely. Oh, that's great. Go ahead.
Yeah, so not having my dad around did make me an angry person, because you have to remember, when you and I were growing up, and I'm sure some of your viewers and listeners too, we grew up in a time where children were heard and not seen. So when my parents went through a divorce, there was no parent, like neither parent pulled us aside as kids and said, listen, I want to sit you guys down and explain to you guys what's going on here, because I'm sure you hear a lot of arguing.
Right.
You hear a lot of, name calling, or it's just a lot of toxic energy in the house.
Yeah.
But, this is what's going on, but you just carry on. No, we were told to mind our own business. So for the older generation out there who wonder why some of us, even now adult children, tripped out the way we did, it's because we followed y'all's lead. That's why.
Yeah.
When y'all told us to stay out of grown folks' conversations and mind our own business,
we stayed out.
That's what we did.
Absolutely.
But in the process of doing that, we internalized all of our anger and frustrations and anxieties and emotions, and we did it for so many years. I mean, at some point in time, it should have been expected that we would eventually blow up.
Yeah.
Right? So we did what y'all told us to do. We stayed in our lane. We stayed out of y'all's business, and we didn't get in conversations that didn't involve us.
Absolutely.
But in turn, we internalized that, and we acted it out in a negative way, because y'all gave us nobody to talk to.
Yeah.
The only people we had to talk to was each other. And so that triggered a lot of anger in me, because I didn't understand the dynamics of how life was supposed to work. As a young kid, I acted it out.
Yeah.
Like most kids do.
Yeah.
And when you leave a child to figure it out, and then they act it out in a bad or aggressive way, you really can't fault them for that. You can't take away an opportunity for them to be heard, and then when they blow up and go off on a teacher, get a whooping.
Right.
What's that about? So
get a what?
Get a whooping. Yeah, I grew up on whoopings, bro. Stop playing. Some of y'all behind the camera laughing because you got some whoopings too.
Absolutely. A good old, the one where you had to go out and pull the switch off the tree.
Pick your own switch, bro.
Absolutely.
You talk about trauma.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man, I got the skinniest switch I can find, bro.
But listen, you didn't just stay there. Now, I know there were some situations in your life, and I'm sure we'll hop into it as we talk about your book. There were some situations, but you kind of bounced back and, begin to make a positive impact on your community and your life and things of that nature. So I just, I really didn't want to open up there, but I want to, that's kind of like the foundation of what we're going to talk about tonight. So let me just read a few more things from your bio. It says having his freedom taken away at such an early age was definitely a wake-up call for Dameon. And it was only a short time later that his life began heading into a much more positive and rewarding direction. So I know And there's a full page of stuff, and we're going to kind of unpack some of the things that Dameon is involved with. But first, maybe just give a sense of your childhood, man. What are some of the things that you liked most about your childhood? What are some of the things that you kind of, didn't really vibe with or didn't like? So let's just kind of, talk about Dameon as a child growing up back in the day.
Yeah, man. I was raised in the church. Thank God.
Absolutely.
I'm grateful for that.
Yes.
And that plays a big part of why we're here today and what we're here to talk about.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for that, spiritual nurturing at such a young age, I think I would have had way, way more failures in life than successes. So it was kind of a balance of all things, James. I was just all over the place. And even at the ages where I knew right from wrong and decided to do wrong, once I got to a space in my head where I was just acting out and rebellious, it felt like me against the world for real. I wasn't even afraid of whoopings at some point. It's just like...
You're like, bring them on,
yeah,
bring them on.
Bring it. I want all the smoke.
Absolutely.
But I will say, too, that getting in trouble a lot, I just had to get myself to a point where I was really sick and tired of being in trouble. That was back in the day when you used to get put on restriction. Remember restriction? Yeah, I got tired of not being able to go nowhere, not being able to do nothing fun. So fast forward to when I became an author after my years in the music business. So when that music business train stopped at its last depot, I said, well, even though I'm not writing music anymore, selling records, I'm going to sell books.
Right.
And so when I started writing books back in May of 2000 was when my first book was published. I said, from this point forward, I'm going to take all of my negative life experiences. I'm going to write about it in a book and share it with the world. But also, I'm going to show the world how to turn negatives into positives.
Awesome. That's awesome.
And just use myself as an example of all of it.
Absolutely.
And so that's what I did. I started doing the performance poetry, spoken word circuit. I was at the Magic Johnson Starbucks all the time, doing the open mic nights and stuff like that. I did that in the Rancho Cucamonga, San Bernardino area. And then more and more people kept saying, man, you should write a book. So once I wrote the first book, the rest was history. And I learned that from Brian McKnight, actually, because when we were recording our album on Capitol Records, Brian was the first artist we worked with. And during the time where they were mixing our record and just kind of getting everything ready for radio quality sound and stuff like that, he sat down with us in the green room and he asked us if we did any writing. And of course we didn't. And he explained to us the importance of writing. And he made it very clear to us, we were kids at that time, 20-year-old kids. And so he explained to us how publishing royalties work. So he encouraged us before our record was over that we should come together and write at least 2 or 3 original songs for our record, because if we didn't do that, the producers and writers who did write for our record would get money, publishing royalties that we should be capturing as a group.
Absolutely.
And I've been writing ever since.
Absolutely. No, that's good. That's awesome. So let me take you back. Okay, so what was the name of the group?
The name of the group was called H2O, which stood for Hard to Overcome. Hard to Overcome.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Cool. Cool. Yeah. So I was going to ask you, and we can go there, straightforward, since you, kind of talked about your writing a little bit. Now, you're a creative, so you're a small business owner, you're a writer, musician. Which one is your favorite and why?
I'm gonna be honest with you. My most favorite title I've ever had on some real talk is Dad. For real.
Okay.
For real.
Okay.
I mean, if we can just be transparent for a few minutes.
Absolutely. And let's go ahead and go there. So we'll put the creative stuff to the side.
Yeah, man.
And let's just talk about, the growing up, having twin boys, just rearing them, especially, boys in today's society, man. And, so just kind of walk us through, how did you feel when you first learned that you were going to be, not just a young man, but you're going to be a dad?
Well, again, transparency 101. That last visit with my then wife from her doctor's appointment, it was a tearful journey back home.
Right.
Because we knew we were trying to have a baby. A baby. But when the doctor in the exam room kept saying stuff like, ooh, oh. I'm like, doctor, what is
going
ooh and
on?
oh? Yeah, what does ooh and oh mean? And then he finally said there's 2 heartbeats in there. And I just remember staring at the sonogram screen. I just stared at it to the point where he had to snap his fingers in front of my face to make sure I was still on the time side of life.
Yeah.
But it was scary.
Yeah.
But in that scaredness, I really had to come to terms with the fact, like, how can I say my faith is strong in God and be scared at the same time? Like, if God wasn't going to bring me through what's to come, then what's to come would look different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I just did what I had always done with everything in my life, man. I just stepped out on faith, faced it head on, and just learned how to deal with it. And so I can really say my kids have really made me grow up and be a better father in a lot of ways that I think at 15 years old now, they don't even really realize yet, you know, but we are very close. I mean, we're the 3 Musketeers, like the modern day 3 Musketeers.
Right, right.
We joke, we act silly and goofy with each other, but because of that level of respect that they've grown up and learned to have for me, they know where that line is.
Yeah. So let me ask you. So did any of your father experiences, did any of those experiences creep into your son's relationship at all?
Yes, but in a more positive way. And,
Okay.
and by more positive way, I mean that, you know, there was a lot of dissension between my dad and I.
Right.
There was a lot of hatred. There was a lot of bitterness, resentment, anger. I mean, because he wasn't there. And it's different when your dad was killed in Afghanistan because he's a Marine.
Sure.
Part of the special forces, and, you know,
Yeah.
his Humvee blew up on a landmine or something like that.
Very different.
Or he's doing life in prison, right?
Sure.
But it hits different when your dad's around and chooses not to be there.
Yeah, that choice.
You see what I'm saying? That plays on a child's mind much differently because it makes the child question themselves internally, like, why does my dad not want to be in my life? Am I not good enough? Is all of this bickering and arguing because of me? Is their divorce because of me? Would their life be better if I wasn't here? You know, these are the things that a lot of people won't share with you, but that was my reality. So when I got old enough, I always promised myself that when I'm old enough to get married and then have kids, I'm never going to allow my children to feel the way my dad made me feel.
Got you.
I have to be different.
Yeah.
I have to be better. And that's where we are.
Yeah, no, that's super dope, man. I grew up knowing my dad, not really on the outs, but, I knew my dad. And, when I knew that I was going to be a father, it was just, definitely a pivot for me because I had to learn how to, I didn't have an example in my dad. So, literally there is no manual for, fatherhood. You kind of just have to go through it.
No doubt.
And so, that's what we do, right?
Yeah.
There's no, I know back in the day they used to talk about this guy named Dr. Spock who wrote books in terms of nurturing children and all this other. Nah, I just had to just go on whatever I saw. So basically I saw men in and around the community, in and around my church, school, if they were, men of good character, I would just kind of look at those and be like, okay, that's something that I can apply, to my life when I become a father. And when I became a father, I think I did a pretty decent job, if I must say so myself. 4 kids, 3 of them in college. And so, yours is 15. I know that you've, helped them with a small business, and we'll talk about that later. So I'm sure you try to learn from your mistakes that and experiences and relationships that you had from your dad. You wanted to do something different, and I'm sure maybe some of the things you wanted to do the same as well as developing those relationships with your twin boys.
For sure. Absolutely. Well said. I mean, yeah, that's spot on.
Yeah. Okay. So then let's go back to the original question. Dad is a super dope title. Wouldn't trade it for the world. But Dad has to go out and, do the breadwinning, right?
yeah.
And, you know, there's things that dads do. And so, you know, going back to the question at hand in terms of being a creative, you know, author, a musician, businessman, which one of the three is your favorite? Or if you want to rank them, you know, that'd be great as well.
I'd have to say professional recording artist.
Okay. Now, why professional? So that would be number one.
Yeah, because that's how my journey started.
Got you.
You know, I went straight from high school thinking that I was going to go straight into college to pursue my degree in criminal justice or administration of justice. I got an opportunity in between that time to audition to be the fourth member of a group who was looking for a fourth member.
Absolutely.
So a couple of days after the audition happened, I get a phone call. Hey, you know, the manager called me. She says, hey, we talked it over. I talked with the guys. Out of everybody that auditioned, they really want to go with you if you're still interested in being in the group. And that's where my career in entertainment began. So not only were we traveling around Southern California doing a lot of showcases, the purpose of the showcases were to get seen to be able to land a record deal.
Absolutely.
So ultimately, we did that. My manager knew the president at Giant Records at that time, which was a guy by the name of Herb Trawick, and they actually came to watch us perform at the Roxy on Sunset, very popular place. And so my manager told us that, you know, she came up to our dressing room when Herb arrived, but she also came up there to let us know that Herb arrived with Scotty and Walter, the twin brothers from the Whispers.
Yeah.
And she said, you guys got to throw down today because the Whispers are here. You know, they're working on a deal. They're working on inking a deal with Capitol right now and blah, blah, blah. This is a great opportunity. You guys got to kill it. So long story short, we killed it. After our set was done, we went on stage right after Ice-T and his band destroyed the whole stage. But it was a very productive conversation out in the parking lot when the Whispers told us how fabulous of a performance we did and said, hey, we just finished inking a deal with Capitol, and we want to know if you guys are willing to be the first act on that label. We were like, duh. Yeah. Where do we sign? So about a month or so later, we signed our first record deal with Capitol Records in 1992.
Yeah, I'm just looking here. You know, true as day in your bio. Let me see. Let me just. While attending community college, Dameon stumbled upon a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to audition for an R&B group who was looking for a new member. So, I mean, just super dope that you were, you know, you've had that experience. Now, I had a similar experience. So, true story. I had me and my friend group, you know, growing up in the church, we think we can, you know, sing. And, you know, of course, you had all the boy groups or whatever, right? So we somehow we found our way. You know, we just friends, really. We just like to hang out. So someone's like, yeah, you know, do you guys sing? And we're like, sure. So they were like, okay, this guy wants you to go and audition for him. Right? Man, we stuck up the joint. You said you had a good time and y'all, you know, signed or whatever. You got real close. Man, look, that was the last time we were ever in a recording studio session ever because it just didn't work out. We were trying to sing some church songs and it just didn't sound too hot. So you know, it's funny that you had a rather positive situation. My situation was it just didn't go so well. So, you know, hats off. So you prefer being a writer, musician over an author and a small business owner?
Yeah, because, I mean, that's the true nature of my gift, you know. Musical talents have always run in my family. You know, on my mother's side of the family, Tina Turner was my grandmother's second cousin. So everyone in the family has always thought, you know, that for those of us in the family who like to sing on such a professional level, it all stemmed from those roots, you know, from those roots in Nutbush, Tennessee.
Man, listen, I wish I could sing a tune. What's love got to do?
Don't do that, James. Don't do that. Don't do that. We got to keep in mind the hearing impaired.
Absolutely, which is why, I mean, man, listen, you know what? I sing the low notes, not the not the high stuff, but okay, no, that's cool. That's cool. So you kind of somewhere in the family tree, kind of, sort of, with Tina Turner. That's super nice.
Yeah,
now,
I mean, I never met her or anything
that was
like
my next question.
Yeah, I never met her, but it was always as a kid, especially when I got to know more about her, because my grandmother talked about her and talked about her mother. Like, my grandmother ran it down, like she broke the family tree down to a science. But, you know, a 12, 13-year-old kid, they don't know the dynamics of that.
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't really know that Tina Turner was a superstar until I was in the process of inking my own record deal as a young adult.
Absolutely.
You know, I remember writing her record label one time. This really happened, by the way. And I was like, yes, you know.
Wait, hold on. I'm going to give you full screen. Go ahead.
Yeah.
There you go.
So I'm Dameon Wroe. I'm part of this group on Capitol Records called H2O. I know you've heard of us. And I'm Tina Turner's cousin. So please have her write back. To this day, I'm waiting to get a letter sent back to me. It was crickets, bruh. But I mean, that's just the nature. That's just the nature of the business, man.
Yeah.
But I did put some fillers out there because I really did. I had heard those stories for so many years. When I got in the music business, I really did want to meet her. You know, but it just wasn't in the cards. Yeah, it wasn't in the cards. But
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about, you know, being, you know, and I think you have this small business with your sons, and so, you know, you brought some stuff over here. Can I show it to the people?
Show it to them.
Man, listen, and I think I've seen you on social media promoting your shot. So I have a good ginger shot right here.
That's that Jujo love, man.
Tell me a little bit about this venture with your sons, and just what's you know, where did you get the influence? You know, who kind of helped you out, and why did you turn to, you know, juicing or, you know, making these ginger shots as a way to collaborate with your twin sons?
So I went back to my childhood, and you know, when we were children, our parents and our elders didn't really teach us anything. Not only did the school system not teach it to us, but our elders never taught us about residual income. I didn't learn residual income until I got in the music business, because I learned that for every $15 album you sell, if you wrote some songs for it now, you get X number of those dollars. And so that was the residual income aspect of it. So I said, man, because nobody ever did that for me, I'm gonna do that for my kids. And I really wanna say, it's not that our parents or our elders didn't do it for us because they didn't love us enough. They just didn't know.
Yeah, didn't know how.
They didn't have the information, and technology was not then what it is today.
Absolutely.
And so I always, going back to the beginning of the interview, right, I said I always want to do for my kids what my dad never did for me. And so I wanted to create something that they could fall back on when they become adults themselves, because they cannot live off my bachelor's degree.
Absolutely.
Right? So I said, well, they can't live off my degree, but I'm going to put something in place that if they ever need money, and if they ever find themselves out on the streets at an older age selling something, I wanted them to be selling something that wasn't going to land them in prison or having them to look over their shoulder every other day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when the pandemic first hit and all the stores and the restaurants and the juiceries closed down, I mean, it sent everybody into a panic. So
big time.
In my household, it's like we eating peas and salad every day for the next 30 days. We're going to stay healthy, right? So we started juicing. And when the twins were little, like 4 or 5 years old, to make them drink the juice, I used to let them participate in putting things into the juicer so they could watch it turn into juice. And I found that them being involved in that process made them more eager to want to drink the juice. And their doctor actually thanked me for it at some time later, because when they would have to go to the doctor and get labs done, their lab work was always on point. So she said, whatever you're doing with your kids, keep doing it and do more of it. So we kept making so much juice. We had so much extra sitting around the house to share. So we started sharing it with people. So since everything was closed down and people couldn't just go get their juice like they normally would, we took the juice to them. So we started a delivery business. And the reason I named it Jujo Beverage Company is because it stands for Justin and Jordan's Beverage Company. And so I always said to myself, God forbid anything happen to me and they need something to fall back on to help them get through life and earn a living. They have their own company already taken off the ground. And so the reason I put both their names in it is so that they're twins. So, the whole sibling rivalry thing. It's not like, well, now the dad's gone, he left me in charge of the company. No, you have equal ownerships. You're brothers, you share everything. And that's what I taught my kids from day one. You share everything and you never leave each other's side. I don't care where you go. I don't care who you with. I don't care where you at. If your brother's going to go outside and play, you going outside to play too. You never leave your brother. So that energy created a more binding business relationship between the three of us. So when their company first started in 2020, within 90 days, they already had customers in about 12 cities in 90 days. And so fast forward to today in 2025, they now have customers that span all the way from the high desert to Pasadena.
Now, so are you in any stores, or are these just orders that people somehow they found out about you maybe on social media, and so you send them out? Or, have you had an opportunity to get into a brick and mortar place to kind of promote it a little bit more so that you can earn a little bit more cash?
Yeah, so the second year I think they were in business, they ended up in a retailing their juices at a Black-owned restaurant in Chino, California, which was a restaurant called R&R Breakfast Spot. And actually, R&R Breakfast Spot was later voted the #1 breakfast and brunch spot in all of San Bernardino County. So for the boys to have their juices featured there for almost 2 years, that was very powerful. About 2 months after landing that restaurant, they got their juices featured in another Black-owned restaurant I think this was in the city of Corona. And it was a restaurant called Chef to the Bone. And their juices started showing up on DoorDash. I mean, these guys have been all over the place with their juices. So what they do is they get all the orders come in through their Instagram page at Jujo Beverage. That's at JUJO Beverage. The orders come in through the DM. They tell us what they want. They pay for it in advance because we take that money that they use in advance for the payment, and they take that money to the store and they buy all the produce fresh. Nothing sits around. It's made to order, and then once everything is done, we deliver it to the customer or we ship it. So yeah, they're doing really good, man. And let's not mention the fact that they have straight A's in every single class, like every class. And that means more to me than the juice business, to be honest.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Because
Yes.
education is everything. I'm real big on education.
Okay, so I'm trying to pull them up over here. I'm sure at some point we'll near the end of the show we can plug them a little bit more.
Of course.
So you said Jujo.
Jujo, Jujo.
Okay.
Beverage.
Beverage. All right. Let's
At
see.
Jujo Beverage.
Jujo. I'm finding it right now.
It should be the first thing that pops up.
It better be, huh? Let's see. There
Yeah,
we
it
go.
better be.
There we go. I found it.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Let's go ahead. Since we're talking about it, we might as well go ahead and just share this energy right now.
Yeah.
I know you sound like a proud papa, so let's go for it.
Yeah.
Now, before I go any further, do you mind showing their faces on the internet, on the interwebs?
No, I don't mind.
Okay. Now, we won't identify who is who. And, so, yeah, we'll just kind of scroll a little bit and let me see what we got. Okay, I'm looking for the juices, though, man. Where are the juices? Okay, here we go. Okay, filling, let me see. I see the summer flavor. Let's see what this is right here. Okay, look at you. You got some kale bombs. All right, okay.
Yeah, that flavor's been the #1 flavor for 5 years.
Okay, you got the cucumber shots.
Fire.
You got the Juju grape juice.
Fire.
You got the signature orange juice.
Stupid fire.
You got the ruby red grape juice.
Yeah, I like that one.
You like?
I like it. Yeah, that's Dad's go-to.
The green apple juice.
Fire.
Fire, double fire.
Yeah,
and
brush fire.
And we have the love juice.
Brush fire.
Brush
fires. Plural.
All right, so we got beat medley, and then you got feeling extra. Okay, All right, cool, man. No,
Yeah.
we gonna have to we're gonna have to do something over here in Riley World to make sure we get some of these Joe juices, ginger shots in the house, because right here, especially during COVID, we would go to Trader Joe's, or as soon as even now, every now and again we'll buy like 12 or 20 of them and just throw them in the fridge just in
Yeah.
case we need a little extra immunity boost. So now we might have to go ahead and put some orders in for some Joe juices.
And that's funny you say that, because the customers that they have who order from them on a regular basis, the average quantity per order is between 25 to 31 bottles per order. So I just said that to say nobody's going to be ordering that many bottles of juice if it's not fire.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And it's something you can share with the whole household.
Now, let me ask you. So I know I was showing the summer flavors, and so let me go back. Now, what size are these summer flavors?
8 ounce, 16 ounce, and then they have a pineapple option, which they came up with, that is offered in a 32 ounce.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I click back on it, I'm looking at it and scrolling through, and it says 8 ounces, and so that's a pretty nice size, 750, 16 ounces. Okay.
Yeah.
550 for the 8 ounces.
Yeah, very competitive.
Being the mathematician that I am, I would definitely choose the 16 ounce, because for $2 extra more, you're getting double the juice.
Right. Absolutely.
So, okay, all right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to, after I take my shot right here, my ginger shot.
Yeah.
You might have a couple of orders from the Riley World household.
Run it up, brother. Run it up.
Okay, so let's go ahead, man, and let's kind of switch reels just a little bit. So we talked about being a small business owner. We talked about one of your passions, music. Being a writer musically. Now, I know that you're an author, and you said that earlier in the interview. You've authored several books. How many books have you authored?
So, Road to Redemption is my 5th published book.
Okay.
Let me qualify that.
Yes.
Road to Redemption is the 5th book that I've written, but I've published a total of 6 books, because one of the books was a children's book written by a different author that I signed to my publishing company back in the day.
Got you. Okay, so this is the book that he's talking about right about here, and I think we're gonna. This is it. Oh no, here it is, right here, right there. That book, right there, right there.
Yes, sir.
And actually, let me go ahead and put you. We're gonna double the screen real quick. How about this book right here? And it matches. Hey, listen, it matches the studio colors.
It really does.
It really does, man. We might have to put this on the shelf behind me instead of my computer. Just put The Road to Redemption by Dameon K. Wroe. So tell us, man, what is this? Is your 5th book now? This looks like a well-written book. I just received the copy. In fact, as I was asking, just could I use it as a prop? He's like, man, I got you. And Dameon even autographed it for me right there.
Yes,
So
sir.
thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what led you to writing this piece right here, your 5th book, The Road to Redemption? Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so what led to that book is 21 years ago now. I was falsely arrested, I was falsely charged, and falsely accused of murder. And how that came about is because I was an armed security officer working at an apartment complex in Rancho Cucamonga, California, where I encountered a gentleman who was on the property where I was working at. He had no lawful right to be there. I later discovered that the person he said he was there to see or pick up, who allegedly lived there, from 2004 to this moment that I'm on your podcast, that person he allegedly was there to see has never surfaced. Never.
Wow, that's crazy.
And so there came a time where this person, when I contacted them to investigate why they were on the private property, he put his pickup truck in reverse, and he shot out of his parking stall in a violent manner and struck me with his vehicle as he was attempting to leave the property. And so based on that contact with him striking me with his vehicle and not making any effort whatsoever to stop and see if I needed to have aid rendered to me or to see if I was okay or to see if he had hurt me, he literally just put it in gear and took off, and the chase was on. And at some point in time, I encountered him still on the property at the exit gate. But where he was positioned when I came around the corner, he wasn't trying to exit. When I came around the corner, he was looking out of his driver's side window into his side window. And just that whole energy in that split second, it just felt like I was walking right into an ambush. And having been in 2 previous shootings before this happened, you know, it was just important to me that I needed to be in the frame of mind that whatever was getting ready to happen, I was determined to survive whatever was coming because I knew what was coming wasn't going to be good.
Right.
So he ended up striking me a second time, and that is when the shooting occurred. Because, you know, hitting someone with your vehicle, you know, the law clearly describes a vehicle as a deadly weapon.
Yes.
And especially when it's being used in a violent and threatening manner, it's even more of a deadly weapon. So he was given multiple chances to surrender. I told him he was under arrest, that he was not free to go. You know, all the commands that come with that. Shut the car off. Let me see your hands. For one split second, I got him to put both of his hands up. But because he had a passenger in the truck with him, there was some back and forth conversation going on between him and the passenger that I really couldn't hear because the windows were rolled up. But nevertheless, I'm outside the truck screaming at the top of my lungs for him to shut the truck off and step out, you know, so that I could take him into custody pending the arrival of the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. Well, he decided he wanted to turn his steering wheel in my immediate direction and pedal to the metal. And unfortunately for him, it cost him his life. So that's what redemption is all about. I paid a debt to society that I never owed because at some point I had to turn myself in and face murder charges for what was never murder.
Right.
And in fact, the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department made a statement to the news media and a front page newspaper article saying that they were not pursuing charges against me because at the conclusion of their investigation, they had determined the shooting to be
self-defense,
justifiable homicide and self-defense.
Yeah.
But because of who the guy was who tried to run me over, and because he came from a privileged white family with a ton of money, they pressured the district attorney's office to file charges against me, and the DA's office buckled.
Got you.
But they never had a case, and that was proven by the not guilty verdict.
Got you. Okay, so it sounds like this book right here, the one that I have that has been autographed by the author Dameon K. Wroe.
Yes.
It sounds like this is a book of justice as well as redemption on your life. Reclaiming your time back. Of course, whatever time you spent, locked up or whatever. I mean, I'm sure that's time, hours that you cannot get back.
Right.
But of course, you're seeking justice because you felt that it was self-defense, and you had to do something. You couldn't just stand there and be like, "Okay, just go ahead and run me over." Who does that?
Right.
So it sounds like this book, and I can't wait to read it, is full of telling your story. And it seems like the major theme for me, at least in hearing you talking about it, is justice.
Absolutely. And I want to also just interject here, James, and just let the viewers know also. It was very emotionally and psychologically difficult to navigate life from 2004 to now, because there were so many slanderous, malicious, one-sided articles about my case on the internet that have been there for years.
Right.
And at one point in time in my life, I want to say probably like 7 to 10 years post not guilty verdict, I got tired of going on the internet, Googling my name to see all these negative articles.
Absolutely.
And so I said, I even thought to myself, You know, there's a lot of companies out there that will remove damaging, you know, information about you from the internet so people can't see it.
Yeah.
But I want to be very clear that the reason I ultimately decided to leave it there and not have it removed is because one day when I had healed from the trauma of the fact that even though this person was breaking the law, even though they tried to run me over and, you know, get away, leaving me dead at the scene under a pickup truck, right? I didn't want to have that information taken off the internet before my book was done, because I knew that one day I was going to write a book, and I wanted the book to be a contrast and comparison between what the internet said versus what I'm saying in the book. And I knew that if I would have took that story down all those years ago and then still wrote the book, the reader would have nothing to compare against to what I'm saying in the book. So even though it was emotionally heavy and disturbing for me to let it sit there, it was necessary. And that's why it took me so long to write this book. Because in order to tell a truthful version, I had to peel back all those scabs of what I went through 20 years ago and relive all of that trauma. The trauma of having the truck run me over again, the trauma of being in a shooting for the third time in my private security career. The shooting prior to this incident was between me and an armed robber at a different property in the city of Laverne, who was shooting at me in the parking lot with a 12-gauge shotgun.
It's crazy.
You know, after I witnessed a robbery occur. And so, you know, luckily they got caught. The guy who shot at me got 17 years for attempted murder and two counts of armed robbery. And the driver who tried to run me over during the time the passenger was shooting at me, he got about 5 or 6 years. So by the time I got to this complex in Rancho Cucamonga, when I got dressed for work that night, I had already made a promise. I'm coming home. Period.
Yeah.
You know, and like I later learned, you know, during the course of writing the book and you know, getting it ready for publication, I started hearing a lot of these cliches where people would say, you know, you play stupid games, you're going to win stupid prizes. And unfortunately, man, this kid played a stupid game and he won a stupid prize.
Wow.
But you know, and this is why I mentor youth. His death is why I'm so passionate about mentoring youth, because all these years have passed and I've always thought in my mind, who mentored him?
Yeah.
You know, who mentored this guy to know right from wrong and always choose to do right? You know?
Yeah.
And so I really didn't want to see anybody else go through what he and I went through. And I'm sure at some point in time, he had a lot of people in his family and his circle of friends who thought very highly of him, thought that he was a very, very, you know, good person. He was a very responsible person.
Sure.
But that's not who I met that night.
Yeah.
I met the worst side of him.
Yeah.
And I responded accordingly.
Yeah. No, man, it sounds like I said, I can't wait. You have some reviews on here. It says, we all know that district attorneys don't look for what's right or what's wrong, but rather a conviction. And then one of the comments says, one of the book's most compelling aspects is its exploration of the themes of understanding, pain, and forgiveness. And then the third comment says, this book is dedicated to every black man in our nation who has ever been wrongfully, maliciously, and unjustly arrested for crimes they never committed. So I can't wait to hop into this book, my authored signed copy of the book.
Yes,
and
sir.
now, since we're here, we might as well go ahead and plug the book, man. If someone out there who's watching, you know, want a copy, wants to read your story of redemption, of justice, where can we find this book?
So you can find a book on Amazon.com, and all you have to do is go to Amazon and type in my name, Dameon K. Wroe, and the book will pop. It'll be the first book that pops up, which is always what I love. And you can also find it online at barnesandnoble.com.
Listen, man, look. I found the link. I was already ready. I got it.
You
I
got
got
it,
it.
okay.
Now, you can't see it, but it's up here.
Yeah.
Just type in Dameon K. Wroe.
And hit enter.
Hit enter. Now, I think I saw one of your other books on here, but this seems like this is the one that you're excited about, that you're hyped about it. Now, I think you even mentioned before going live that you're part of a book tour or some kind of book a book fair or something that's coming up in the summer. You want to kind of drop some information on that, and that could be another place where you pick up this wonderful book.
Absolutely. So for any of your listeners who wish to follow me and keep up with my summer book tour with Barnes & Noble, they can follow me on Instagram at DKW_mentor. And all of the Barnes & Noble bookstores that will be hosting me for my summer book tour will be listed on my page. You can also follow my Instagram page for Another EP Publishing Company. So it's just at Another.
Hold on, man. Time out.
Yes.
Time out. You're going too fast for this, brother.
Oh.
Hold on. Let's go back.
Let's run it back.
Let's run it back. Okay. Let's go to your Instagram. So
Yeah.
go for. Give me the handle.
Yeah, it's at DKW
__
mentor.
MENTOR. See, I know how to spell just a little bit.
And once again, the first thing that pops up should be.
It should be. Oh, I see you. I got you. Here, let me put this. Look at him, man. He got a nice little Instagram, Instagram
something.
IG pose. Look at it right there. And then as we scroll up, look, you got some other stuff. You have the Modern Day Mentor. Tell us a little bit about that as we're kind of scrolling and taking a peek into the live of Dameon K. Wroe.
Yeah, so Modern Day Mentor really and truly was inspired by the person who lost his life in the subject of Road to Redemption.
Okay.
Because anybody who knows me, James, and who really, really knows me and who's known me for a long time, knows that I'm not a taker, I'm a giver.
Yeah.
And I've always said, Road to Redemption was a very tearful, emotionally and psychologically hard book to write.
Right.
Because I had to relive every aspect of the incident that happened, of being incarcerated, of being chained up every time I went back and forth to court. A lot of people don't know this, but, even when I came home and when I was acquitted, when I came home, like the first 3 to 4 years I was home, I had been shackled in chains for so many times within a period of a year that even after getting out of the shower, it felt like the chains were still on my ankles.
Wow.
And that's real talk.
Yeah.
That's real talk.
Yeah.
And that's the whole psychological aspect of like knowing you're free, but you don't feel free because you still feel the scars.
Yeah.
So Modern Day Mentor largely was inspired by this guy who tried to run me over, because it made me wonder, somebody somewhere in this man's life failed him. They failed him, because even I've had to pull my kids aside and share my story with them, piece by piece, to where they can digest what I'm saying to them. And I made it clear to my kids as they got older, I know you're excited to tell your friends at school that your dad's an author, your dad's cousin is Tina Turner, your dad's a former recording artist, this and that. But I've always sat my kids down and told them, I don't care how highly esteemed you guys hold me as your dad, no matter what I've done, no matter what accolades come with my name, you must follow directions. You must be law abiding. When you leave this house, you represent me. So when you know what's right to do, you always do what's right. Don't think that because you're twins and you're cute, the universe is always going to give you a pass. Because when you make it into the backseat of a police car and you walk through that prison cell for the first time, they don't care where you grew up at. They don't care what church you go to. They don't care how much money you came from. And they don't care nothing about you as a person. You're not even a person no more. You are a booking number.
Yeah.
And they will remind you of that.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? There's no love there. And that's a whole nother traumatic conversation.
Absolutely.
The things that I've seen by being incarcerated, my mind will never unsee.
Right.
Never. And so it was important for me because I care so much about kids and I care so much about youth. You know, so many of our young black men between the ages of like 14 all the way up to like 25 are making stupid decisions in their life. And even if they've never been in no kind of trouble, I always like to remind people that when you want to be out there in the streets doing what everybody else is doing because you think it's cool, you better be ready to get what everybody else is going to get, because these judges don't care about sending you to prison for life. They don't care about it whatsoever. They're not going to lose no sleep over it. And some of these young black men are never coming home, man. Most of the people in my unit, when I was incarcerated, most of the people housed in my unit that will never see the light of day ever again.
It's crazy.
It's like if they were to die today and be reincarnated tomorrow, they got another life sentence to do. Off the top.
That's crazy.
And it's a real thing. It's not just something we see on TV. It's a real thing. One stupid decision can change the entire trajectory of your young life.
Yeah, and just reminds me, and we don't have to go down the rabbit hole, talking about this particular situation, but it just reminds me kind of what happened a couple of days ago in Frisco, Texas. So one small move can just change your life forever. So you have two lives that have been jacked up. The young man who was unalived, and then the guy who back in the police car, even though he's asking how is the guy doing, well, he's dead, or he's unalived. Sorry, he's unalived. And you're also confessing that I did it.
Right.
So it's just like, man, you got to, sometimes, being an elementary school teacher, you tell the kids, hey, quiet down, just simple things.
Right.
But if you understand the simple things, then when things get a little bit more difficult, it'll be much easier for you to comply, because again, even though sitting is not asking, isn't really about, safety, but it is about teaching folks how to move in a space. And so if you don't know how to navigate in a space in an elementary or middle school or high school with just some of those simple things, man, it's going to be difficult for you. If you parking, you think you're all that in a bag of chips, you parking in the red, and the next thing you know, oh, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be all right. You come down, they're trying to take your car away.
Yeah.
Or you got a ticket on your windshield. It's like, look, if you would have moved just a couple of more feet up, you would have been good.
Yeah.
But because you think you all that, you got to deal with the consequences. So,
and I'm really glad you used the word comply, James, because that's the anthem of Road to Redemption.
Right.
Because, I know that because of a lot of social injustices that we've seen happen in our world, over the last God knows how many decades, right? The biggest thing that comes to my mind was the whole George Floyd situation,
sure,
right?
Absolutely.
That was a trigger for me, because when I saw, and I know this sounds selfish, I'm already going to just put it out there. I know this sounds selfish, but I don't mean it this way. But when you just look at the psychological trauma of what I endured, everything was fine until I saw the coverage of the George Floyd thing. And when I saw how people were marching around the nation, you hear me? Around the nation.
During COVID,
not even tripping off COVID, right? It was like, we want to bring awareness to what just happened to this brother. Like, we witnessed it happen on TV, right?
Yeah.
It made me, as a human being, still in the process of writing my truths, it made me feel less than. It made me feel like my life didn't matter, because when I got maliciously prosecuted for a crime I didn't commit, there was no Black Lives Matter that came to my rescue.
Right.
There was no Al Sharpton.
Right.
Or Jesse Jackson didn't come visit me in prison.
Right.
And so there was no NAACP coming to the courthouse, standing in the back of the court fighting for me. It was me and God.
What's my man's Crumb?
Benjamin Crumb? Yeah, it was none of that. It was none of that. Nobody from the Cochran firm came to see about me. It was me and God, and thank God for my attorney.
Absolutely.
Thank God that he saw fit to make a way for me to fire my public pretender.
Yeah.
And my family came together and helped me raise the money to get a hired attorney by the name of Donald J. Calabria. And he was the one who fought my murder case and beat it with his eyes closed. James,
Amazing.
it was a circus.
Yeah.
It was, if you would have been in that courtroom, you would have seen for yourself, it was a circus. And my case, you have to remember this, my case was in the newspaper every week for years.
Yeah.
So when the jury was selected,
already
many
knew.
of them already had their mind made up as to how my case was going to go.
Absolutely.
Which was not fair to me.
Yeah.
And even when my attorney asked for there to be a change of venue, the judge didn't allow it. When he asked for the case to be thrown out, based on the fact that the sheriff's department didn't pursue me, the judge wouldn't allow it.
Yeah.
When I beat my murder trial, my bail was supposed to be lowered from $1 million to $175,000 because I still had one more charge to fight. The judge didn't lower my bail. And that's how white privilege works.
Yeah.
When you got the right amount of money and you know the right people and you're the right skin color, that's why so many of our young black men don't come home.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have the resources to fight their accusers.
That's it.
And that's the real talk. And that's why I urge people, like, just stay out of the justice system altogether. And I don't care how many people hate the police. I don't care if it's a police officer. I don't care if it's an armed security officer. I don't care if it's a greeter at Walmart who says he's security.
Yeah.
When somebody has a gun trained on you and they're telling you that you're under arrest and they tell you to lay down on the ground, whatever command they tell you to do, I'm urging you to just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Because those commands that we tell people to do, they're designed to not only keep us safe, but
Keep
they're
them
designed
safe.
to keep the person safe as well.
Yeah.
But when you become increasingly aggressive and you put somebody's life in imminent danger, there's a price to pay for that. And it's not a good one.
Yeah.
You know? And so I'm really sorry that the guy lost his life. But I know that when my time comes to stand before God and answer for what happened that night, I feel confident and I feel at peace with being able to basically step into the realization in front of God that he knows it was a last resort.
Absolutely.
Because he saw everything. He was there with me.
Yeah.
And that's how I beat the murder case. It wasn't because I just simply had a paid attorney. It was because God sent me that attorney to deliver me back to my family because he knew I didn't belong there.
Absolutely.
And so I'm really grateful that you've allowed me to come on this platform and share my story because I've been carrying this cross for 21 years, man.
Man, that's a long time.
And it feels good to unpack this. And I urge other people too.
Yeah.
You know, we don't know when our time will come.
Yeah.
You know, and if you're like me and you were raised in the church, you know that tomorrow's not promised. And if you've been wronged in any way or if the justice system has wrongfully accused you of something, I always tell people, man, never let society narrate your story.
Man, that's powerful right there.
If your story's gonna be told anyway,
Yeah.
it only makes sense that you tell it because you're gonna tell the most truthful version of it. And so I'm glad now that when people Google my name and read these reckless stories about me, now that the book is done, they now have a blueprint to the truth. This is the truth that the newspapers never told y'all. Because if they would have told you guys the truth 20 years ago, they wouldn't have sold one newspaper.
Absolutely. Wow. Let me just do this real quick. Let me see if we can get it to work. Okay, let's try that one more again.
Hey.
Hey man, listen, you kind of dropped some nuggets out here. Now, I'm always reminded of, one of my famous quotes, one of the famous quotes from Dr. King, and he says, "It's always the right time to do what's right." It's something very similar to that, and it's like, look, man, you talk about compliance, and when if you're ever in that situation, just do what's right, or even before that, if you think that something's not gelling right, or it doesn't look right, or maybe not put yourself in that situation in the first place, right?
Yeah.
So you're always thinking, hey, I got to do what's right. When should I do right? Well, I should do right all the time. So no matter if it's a parking situation or you're standing in line or whatever the case might be. Just always try to do what's right and not even put yourself in a situation to be hurt, to come, into any altercation.
Yeah.
But just stay away from the drama, stay away from the trouble, and everything will be nice, and everyone can go home and live to see
Another day.
another day.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Man, I can't wait to hop in this book, man.
Yeah.
The Road to Redemption by Dameon K. Wroe.
Yes, sir.
And I kind of dropped a couple of links. Let me see if I can put them out there for you. Here's the link right here on Amazon if you want to copy that link right there. Or if you just go to Amazon and you can find this wonderful piece, this wonderful masterpiece. Let's see, it's right there. Oh, yeah. There we go. Look at him right there, looking all nice. That looked like it should be a movie poster. I hope you have the copy of this book printed as a movie poster somewhere in your man cave. If you don't, you need to, because this is a pretty hard pose. And like I said, I love the colors. It kind of matches with the studio, man. So I appreciate you hopping on here tonight, hanging out with us, unpacking some of the things experiences that you've been through. Now, here's my last question, and I know we were talking about it before we went live. Your publishing company. Now, you said you've published several books, and so I'm just wondering, even when I got your emails, I was like, okay, another EP published. I'm like, dang it, who is this? I was like, oh man, that's. I was like, that's Dameon. Yeah, that's Dameon. Tell us, what's the inspiration behind another EP publishing company?
So when I wrote my first book of poetry, my poetry book was based on real life things that I had gone through, and overcome, right? And so because I was able to overcome a lot of trauma, a lot of anger issues, a lot of resentment issues, I knew that because I overcame it, I could use my experiences to teach other people how to overcome it too. So when it was time for me to start thinking of a name for my publishing company, another EP publishing company was the most appropriate, because if you look at all the books that I've written and you look at the subject matter of what I'm talking about in the books, it's another episode of what happened in my life. And so that's really what EP means. It means another EP publishing company, another episode. EP is just an abbreviation for episode.
Yeah.
Because everything we go through in life is an episode. When you got married for the first time, that was an episode in your life. When you had your first child and you watched your child be born and come into the world, that was an episode. When you landed that killer job making, 6 figures, that was an episode. So everything that we go through in life that teaches us a life lesson is an episode. And that's what my stories are about. My stories are about life episodes. And a lot of the things that I write about are things that most people are reluctant to share. But I feel like, how can you help people heal if you're not able to share your story of what you went through and how you overcame it?
Man, listen, last question here before we wrap up. Out of your 5 books that you've published, which one is your favorite? And I think I know.
My favorite?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say, if you use the word favorite, I'm gonna say Their Voice Matters.
Okay.
Child Custody Solutions for Effective Co-Parenting, because that book was inspired by my twin boys, because my divorce was a civil war.
Okay.
And through that civil war, my kids made me level up.
Got you.
And make the process about them, not about me.
Absolutely.
And I always told them through the process, listen, I literally sat them down and told them this. You're too young to understand what's going on with your mother and I, but I want you to know this. Everything that we're going through is not your fault. Because remember, I told you in the beginning, we grew up with parents who told us to mind our own business.
Yeah.
And we were to be seen and not heard. I didn't want to raise my kids like that.
Right.
I wanted my kids to always know, I care about what you think. And your voice matters to me. And as long as you do it in a respectful way, you always have an open door to come to me and express to me how my behavior in this process made you feel. And then I corrected those things. And that's why I told you in the beginning, my kids have taught me how to be a better father. And because they taught me how to be a better father, I can teach other people how to be better fathers and better mothers.
Man. Okay, see, I thought this would be your favorite book, but it's only because I'm familiar with this book and I haven't had to experience a custody
you
battle.
gotta get the
so-
collection, man. Gotta get the collection.
Absolutely. And I like the way that you named it another episode, because that is an episode that you just talked about, going through that whole situation with your divorce, with your boys, sitting them down, so that's definitely another episode in the life of Dameon K. Wroe. Again, man, we appreciate you. So, we talked about you boys. I think I still have their IG handle up here, or maybe this is you. So go ahead and let's tell the people where they can find you if they are interested in following some of the stuff that you are developing right now.
Yeah, they can follow me on Instagram at DKW_mentor. They can also follow the Instagram page for Another EP Publishing Company.
Okay.
And they can also look up Another EP Publishing Company on Facebook as well.
Absolutely.
And if you will allow me one moment of grace.
Just one moment.
I just want to tell all the viewers and the listeners, man, if you're somebody listening to this podcast right now and you don't know God, you don't have a relationship with God, I'm encouraging you to get one real fast.
Absolutely.
Because had it not been for my faith and my trust in God, I would have never walked away from a 51 years to life in prison sentence if I didn't know God. The only reason I'm sitting on this podcast is because of God's grace, his love, and his mercy. And that's really where my redemption begins. It's not just, the book is not just about my redemption. It's about the redemption of those out there who have also been wronged, who feel like they don't have a voice. And I'm telling you, you do have a voice. Use that voice while you're still on the time side of life, and don't let society narrate your story.
Man, awesome way to end this broadcast, man. We've been chopping it up for the past hour. Like we're an hour and 10 minutes into this thing, man. I might have to have you come back and do another episode, maybe in season 2.
Let's do it.
But I appreciate you being here, man. I know we had some tech situations happening, but we made it through.
Yep.
And, I think I'm a little bit more blessed. I know definitely when I take these home to the wife and I, that's going to be the last thing I consume tonight is just ginger shot.
And please make sure you give her hers, please, because I don't want to get in trouble because of something you did. That's all I'm saying. Ain't no need in both of us getting rolled up.
Man, listen. You got to. No, so back during COVID, now I'll close with this. Back during COVID, I used to, go live because I was just learning how, hey, Dr. Wood says thank you. I was just learning how to live stream and everything. So, I call myself trying to be fancy. And so Friday nights, my wife and I, we would go live.
Yeah.
And part of our live stream was we would actually take a shot because of the COVID and just, like an immunity boost. And I would play the song, shot, 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 shot. But, I had to stop playing that song because I kept getting little strikes on my YouTube channel. But, so no, I'll make sure she gets this shot.
Yes, please.
And, we're going to enjoy it. Like I said, it'll be the last thing I consume tonight. And, man, I appreciate you.
Appreciate you, brother.
Dr. Wood, thank you for hanging out with us, man. And so, again, Dameon K. Wroe, The Road to Redemption, just talking about his life and his whole situation. But in the end, it's all about justification, justice. And so one man's triumphant return back to society, going through just a crazy ordeal. And so, again, man, glad that you can pop in and share a little bit about your life, your story, reflecting on your fatherhood, being a businessman, a songwriter, and most importantly, an author as you tell and discuss different episodes in your life, man. Appreciate you, man. Hang tight. Let me close up the show, and we'll talk afterwards. So, again, thank you, Dameon K. Wroe, author, businessman, father, and writer. Appreciate you, my man.
Thank you, brother.
All right, guys. So Hey, listen, we had another wonderful, there we go, another wonderful podcast tonight with Dameon K, Wroe, the author of this book right here, The Road to Redemption. Just a super awesome guy. I've known Dameon for quite some time, grew up in the same area, and so just love to hear what he had to say about his life, and especially, I can't wait to hop into this road to redemption. So again, appreciate you, my man. You know what? We're going to come back with another episode. This is season 1. That was episode 1, and rightfully so, because we were talking about episodes. So look forward to more content. I have some of my guests lined up. They have consented to come on the show, but they're a little shy. So we got to do what we can to just kind of get them on here and be a part of the Westside Show podcast. So other than that, do me a favor if you can. There is somewhere over here where you can like, comment, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. We would really appreciate it. And we're going to keep dropping some content as it relates to just some of my favorite guests, what I'm doing in the classroom, and just kind of what Riley World looks like in this current day and time. So other than that, me stop rambling. Again, thanks, Dameon Wroe, for hopping on. I am Mr. Riley, coming to you live from the West Coast, the best coast, the West Side. So thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Have a good night. Thanks for watching.
Sunny days, West Coast rays, always bright. Mr. Raleigh rolling through, lighting up the night. Palm trees swaying as we cruise mid-July. Ocean breeze kiss my face, ain't no need to lie. City of angels, concrete jungle dreams. Golden hour glows brighter than it seems. Mr. Raleigh on the west side playing scenes. Spinning stories on the mic, got 'em chasing themes. West Coast, the best coast, you heard it true. Riding low through the streets.